I'm Kyle Reynolds, Superintendent, Woodward Public Schools. In recent years, the state legislature has really failed the students in Oklahoma, the schools in Oklahoma. As we've seen this dramatic reduction in funding all across our state, Woodward has been on the receiving end of many of those cuts as well. We've been forced to hire additional emergency certified teachers while reducing our staff overall. We've packed more and more students in our classrooms, now upwards of 30 kids in many of our classrooms. But the refreshing thing about living in the community where we live is that our community has always stepped up to support our schools and our students. Historically, we've had an excellent passage rate with our bond issues, including our last $29 million bond issue that passed by 80%. It's pretty significant. We accomplished a great deal with that bond issue, and as we followed up from there, our long-range planning committee set out with a really tough task of analyzing what needs we still have in our schools and what we can do in our next step of our plan moving forward. So out of that work and looking at analyzing the needs throughout the district, the Long Range Planning Committee found really a grouping of projects that we could take on for this step of our long range plan to address things with our arts, academics, and athletics. Just in athletics, we struggle year-round, spending upwards of $50,000 most years just to get the grass to grow at the football stadium. And we limit the use of those fields during the course of the year because we have to maintain that grass field. So one of the things that rose out of that work was to turf the football and soccer fields so that we could use that facility year-round and increase the usage of that exponentially. The track is also inadequate for the purposes of hosting large track meets with just a 6-lane track. So they looked at a plan to create a new 8-lane track with locker rooms and concessions out to the north of our softball complex.
Hi folks, I'm C.J. Montgomery, President of the Woodward Chamber of Commerce. I've been fortunate enough to be your Chamber President for the past 14 years. This past fall, the communities of Weatherford and Alva, between them, hosted 5 football playoff games. Think for just a moment the amount of business revenue, the amount of tax revenue that flowed into those communities from the tens of thousands of people that visited those various communities this past fall. And it just starts there. We're unlimited in what we can do. Band contests. There's absolutely no reason Woodward, Oklahoma cannot host a statewide band contest in this community. Cheerleading, soccer, track, the list goes on and on. And we're not limited to what we can do in this community. We just need one more piece of the puzzle, quite honestly.
Academics obviously is at the core and the very heart of what we do every day. And again, the legislature has restricted our use of funds over the course of the year and limited those funds where we haven't had textbook monies for a number of years. Luckily, with the support of our local community, we're able to invest in technology, which enables us to leverage that technology to provide students with timely and sometimes almost unlimited access to educational resources, whether they're at school or at home. And that's another important component of this bond issue, is to continue forward with our one-to-one initiative.
I am Kayla Godwin, Mrs. Godwin up at Woodward High School. I teach anatomy and physiology to my upperclassmen. I teach physical science to freshmen, and I'm also the athletic trainer, so I teach 1 hour of athletic training, intro to athletic training. The issues I see with technology in the school right now would ultimately be not being able to keep up with how much technology our world is using. If somebody comes in and they don't have access to technology at home, that's been an issue as far as homework goes. They weren't able to do something at home, something breaks here at school, and how are we going to fix it? How are we going to be able to let that student get to their full potential with all the other students? I feel the bond would help with issues like that in regards to being able to keep up with technology. I guess if we are able to have the same technology that some of these bigger schools, especially in the metro area, are starting to use, then we'll be able to give those, those utilities, those supplies to students here at school, and it's not going to be as much of an issue whether they aren't able to have, said Chromebook or whatever it may be. Every single day, technology is getting further and further along. So as long as we are able to keep up with technology, then we are able to help our kids be the best that they can be.
I'm Carol Parsons, my husband Dan Parsons. We live in beautiful Woodward, Oklahoma.
We moved back to Woodward 9 years ago, but I was born and raised here, third generation from here. My great-great-granddad had the livery stable in Woodward, so we've been around these parts a long time. You see how the kids are advancing. We have to get our kids ready to step into that role too, and give them what they need to compete on a global basis anymore, not just locally, but they've got to be able to go out there and compete globally now.
That's right. One thing I'm passionate about is that Woodward is a progressive town that is on the move. We enjoy so many natural resources in this area, from agriculture to oil and gas to wind energy. Those are all wonderful things, but the most precious natural resource we possess or that we enjoy are our youth. And they deserve our investment, and the time is now for that. Nothing says progression and progress more than supporting your youth and your students in your public school system.
That's, we always have things here that it's just part of doing business. Well, that's part of living and being a productive member of a community. You have to support it. You have to do it with your dollars, your time, and that's just part of your dollars. You have to support it.
Dan is so right in that. If we want nice things, we have to pay for nice things. And if you really want to break this down, for every $1,000 in property tax that you get taxed, $5 will be the increase per month if we pass this bond issue. Now, if you pay $2,000 a year, that is $10 a month. And I'm pretty sure that I can find $10 a month for our youth.
And it's just going to kind of bring us to where we need to be, really. I mean, instead of being a little behind the curve, we're going to be up and competing with all the communities for jobs. When people come to Woodward, they want to come to Woodward. How are the schools? Do they compete with all the other schools, with their facilities, with all their technology? Well, if they don't, those jobs are going to go somewhere else, and all of it just brings it right into that area.
Our millage is not the same as a lot of other cities in Oklahoma. Our millage is rather low in comparison to other cities that are like-sized, like demographics. So that's why we feel like we've got to come to our citizens and ask for additional monies until that millage increases, or maybe it won't. But like I said before, if we want nice things and we want good things for our youth, we're really going to put our money where our mouth is. And there's never been a better time than now.
It's not necessarily nice things, it's necessary things. I mean, it's not just
Absolutely.
fluff. It's stuff that our kids have to compete, like we say in the society we have today. So
it's important to note that these aren't wishes. This isn't a wish list or a want list. Dan is right. This is a necessary list. So we're going to vote yes. We would encourage those that are like-minded to do the same.
The arts is another integral part of a well-rounded education for many of our students, as well as a component of our community involvement. Our high school auditorium is host to 50 or 60 events a year, and probably if you're watching this video, you've been to an event at the high school auditorium where something didn't work right, or you could see the curtains falling apart on stage, or you couldn't hear what the speaker was saying. These have been some ongoing issues that are also mirrored at the middle school auditorium that really need to be addressed.
My name is Shimber Reed, and I cover 10th grade English, and I cover Drama 1, 2, and 3 here at Woodward High School.
My name is Charlie Burns, and I teach drama at the middle school and competitive drama at the high school.
Some of the issues that we've been dealing with is a lot of the stuff that we have we can't really use because there's no access to it due to we have no sound system that works, or it's hit or miss, and then our curtains need repair, so it's a different environment that that the students have to get used to and adjust.
The biggest issue that I see within the arts department at our school is the facilities in which we're expected to perform and put on quality shows. Many of the workings and the equipment within the facilities are not up to standard or expectations for what we need to accomplish whenever we're trying to put on a show or put on a performance of any type as far as music is concerned. And so one of our biggest concerns is how well we are equipping our students to move on and do these things beyond high school, beyond middle school, into the community, into college.
By upgrading everything and making sure that our curtains are not patchwork quilts, as some of the students call them, we can actually demonstrate that we do understand things and actually integrate other classes. We can integrate backstage stuff, especially learning how to deal with curtains, and introduce costumes, makeup, everything else that we don't have that opportunity here right now.
To my knowledge, the bond is going to revamp the equipment that we've been lacking, give us new equipment, working equipment. That's always been an issue, is that we never know from day to day if we're going to show up and something isn't going to work, or if it's not prepared for the performance, because it's all kind of hit or miss. And so I think the bond is going to help us, in the most part, to have reliable equipment and equipment that meets the standards that we need it to meet.
My name is Stacy Crockett. I work at Woodward High School and Woodward Middle School as the head band director for Woodward Public Schools. This building is dilapidated, it's falling apart. We have pieces coming off the walls. Our equipment and our storage areas are not up to par. They are falling apart. You know, we put instruments on them and the shelves just come crumbling down. And we make do, but we need new ones. Our music storage is old and it's starting to splinter. So as kids are getting their binders out, they're getting splinters in their fingers. Same with our percussion storage over here. It's old and splintered, and the carpet is outdated. It's ripped and coming up. The walls are made of corkboard and not sheetrock, and it has no acoustics whatsoever. They're going to put sheetrock and acoustic tiles on the walls and the ceilings. They're going to change out the carpet for tile so that we don't have to deal with carpet on floors with instruments, because, you know, kids spit into their instruments and then it gets in the carpet. They're going to replace the cabinets to get us new instrument cabinets that will stand up to the instruments we have. And they're going to replace some of our equipment, as far as I understand. So I think it'll help our recruitment. I think the kids will take more pride in the program when they have something nicer. Having quality instruments and quality equipment actually helps our sound and helps us sound better.
We're at a very critical point in the history of our school and the history of our state, and I think there is absolutely no better time for our community to be able to step up and support our kids, and more importantly to support our teachers as we approach this sort of watershed moment in history. New facilities mean an increased sense of pride with our kids, means we have a little bit of an edge when recruiting high-quality teachers and educators to help provide for our kids in the future. Now is the time to support Woodward's 2018 bond issue.